Hi all, this is Louise from Lifehouse Church in Johannesburg, and today I'm going to be covering Romans 6 and from verses 10 to 11. For the death he died to sin once for all, but the life he lives to God. So you too should consider yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. Another translation uses the words reckon yourself dead to sin. Paul in this verse, or these two verses, is continuing to explain to us in more detail about what it means to be united with Jesus. I want to clarify that he isn't saying that Jesus experienced sin in his life, as the Bible tells us that Jesus was sinless. His point was that Jesus came to deal with sin, and he took on himself the sorrows and temptations of humankind until it became to a point where he actually was bearing all sin of humankind on himself. So when Jesus died, he had finished a stage of his ministry that altogether, his time in that realm of sin had come to a complete end. He no longer belonged to it anymore. He had completely and fully taken on and paid for all the consequences of sin for us. And then it says that Jesus was resurrected by the Father and given new life, but it didn't end there. It says that he was exalted above all and became the King of Kings. He now lives in the realm of God and in the position of supreme power, the head of all, and holds the keys of death and Hades. And all the channels of communication between Jesus and God are completely open. We need to learn how this applies to us as believers, as we are now in Christ. So we are urged by Paul to grasp this truth of our security from our position in Christ. What's interesting is that because we are in Christ, what applies to Jesus applies to us. I spoke about this before. So therefore, all the communications channels that have been opened by Jesus are now applying to us. So all the channels of communication apply to us too. So that everything we can communicate with God like Jesus communicates with God. And Paul doesn't rush to tell us how to live our lives or how to behave. He actually starts with facts. So in other words, we are told we shouldn't be ready to be told what to do until we are ready, that we understand and we know who we are in Christ and where we are seated positionally. Once we have grasped the truth, then we can start to look at behavior and how to learn how to deal with sin in our lives. And often we find that we often rush too quickly in with behavior modifications with ourselves and our own lives and also with other people around us without fully understanding the basis of why. It's when we truly understand and see our positions in Christ, then we can start to live out the godly life. You see, the secret to holiness is actually to come at it indirectly. If we first come at it in trying to reach the high standards of God, we will fail and we will be miserable at that. But we need to rather go back to where our positions are and who we are in Christ and rediscover and grasp that we have indeed died to sin, that sin is no longer in you and me, and yes, that we still live in a body of sin, but now we are alive to God. And sin no longer reigns in our bodies, all in us. So how do we do this? The word reckon helps us to unpack this more. So reckon means to accept something as true or to believe that something is certain. Another way is saying something is established by calculation. And it means that we take by calculation the facts that are presented to us about the gospel and that we are to grasp what happened to Jesus, and then learn to apply that what happened to Jesus applies to us. It means that what is true of Jesus is true of us. We are told to consider ourselves dead to sin, that we too are finished with the realm of sin. This doesn't mean we have to carry on pretending so that we need to try harder, but actually we are simply to accept the truth of what Jesus has accomplished for us as true, and that accept that we are no longer under sin, under death, or under the law. And it's learning to consider this as truth. That is our ultimate truth. We don't have to make it more true through our behavior, because it is already true. So I pray that you'll be able to today take hold of these truths of that you are dead to sin, and that you learn to apply this to your hearts and to your mind until it becomes a mindset. Simply accept and grasp and hold on to these truths that Jesus is telling us and apply it as facts. And then maybe one day you'll see a change in your behavior. So I thank you so much for joining me today. Please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you'd like any more information about Lifehouse Church, and please go to our website, you can click on any of the links below. Thank you so much.